Hi, I'm Becca and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to put this patchwork cane together. It's the second in the series that I'm going to be doing, so I'll link the first one in the description box so if you've missed it. There's a lot of work that goes into this cane, but it's definitely worth it, and it just takes a little bit of patience and a lot of clay conditioning, but it is definitely worth it. So let's get started and I'll show you how. Right, so for this second patchwork cane, I'm going to do it slightly different. I've already done a practice cane and I think I figured out a way that will make it easier and make it more look like it. It is a nice cane that I've ended up with, and it's nice when it's reduced. When I was reducing it down, I was worried that it wasn't going to look quite right, but it's alright, it's a pretty cane, but I think I've got a way of doing it now. So if you're watching this tutorial, then it's worked. So right, I've just got a log of purple clay, and what I'm going to do this time is, when I did the last one I marked it off and did it this way, but this piece here is just the same on either side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this piece as a whole, and then I'm going to cut it down the centre, and then we'll move on to the next bit. So I'm going to do this part here right at the top. So I've got my log of purple. Sorry about the noise in the background, the neighbours are having some work done. So I'm just making this into a triangle, like sort of, not a triangle with sharp sides, but a rounded sort of triangle, because I'm trying to create this piece here. Okay. So it wants a wider bottom. Okay, so we've got it and about that. I've got that. It's about 2 inches long if you're not wanting to know amounts. So, and then the next bit that I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap that in white clay. Now white clay is going to be the filler for when we do go back to just making the section. I'm going to fill in the bits around it so we can turn it into a square. So just straighten off some of this clay. Now in between each section there's a white line, so whenever I'm doing a section I'm going to be lining it with this. Now this is pretty thin, you could do it a bit thicker if you want, but this is a new pasta machine that I've got in my studio, and it's a different setting, so I'm still sort of working it out. But I'm just going to wrap this up, because if you make it too thick, because you're putting all different layers together that are all going to have their own layer of white, you'd end up with quite a lot of white in the centre, and you probably don't want to have too much. You want to see the pattern, so that's what I've just done. And I'll just fill that a little bit in there because I cut it too short. Don't worry about it. And any of these little imperfections you'll not notice when your cane's reduced. And I've cut a little bit off there. There we go, that'll do. That'll do. There we go. And then we can just smooth it off so it's the same as the other. Okay, so we've got our rounded sort of triangle going on there, and now the next part is sort of a bent section here, so I'm going to use a nice pink for that. So I need it to be as long as what the purple part is. I'll roll it out. Now let's try what thickest setting on this pasta machine is. Oh yeah, that's perfect. So I'm going to put that on here. I'm just going to trim around. Okay, so I've got my piece that's going to go under there. Now, as you see on this one, it's slightly bent. Oh, get it on camera, it's coming down in the centre. So what we could do actually is, if we put a strip down the centre of it, that will make it more thicker in that area so that it will bend the bottom piece around. And again, I'm just going to wrap it in white clay. I'll have to roll that back out. So I've got the top bit done, or the bottom bit should I say, the other side. Right, so that is going to be this way, and then we just want to pop a little bit of white on the sides. Because when we're reducing it down and popping it all together, the white sections will need to match up as well as the coloured ones. Okay, so we've got that. And I'm sort of just going to curve it round a little. And then it's pointed more down in the middle, so we have the lump part there. And we're just popping it under here. And just make sure you line it up with either end. Now, this is the time for you to fiddle with the shape, get it to how you want it to go. So, as you can see here, this one, this is just the next section down, and it's just thicker at the bottom because that's where it's bending to. So I'm going to tweak this and then go get my white clay rolled out again, and I'll be back in a second. Right, so the next section we're going down is the same shape as what we've just done the pink one, but I'm going to do it in this green, but we're going to double it up because that section's bigger within the image. So what I'm going to do is I'll chop this so it's the same length. Just be about right. We'll chop that down the middle. So this one's going to go underneath here. Okay, so I might just take just a slither off each side. now because we've already got this bump in here, we don't need to put this extra section in. So I'm going to wrap this with white like I showed you before, and I'll be back and I'll show you what to do. Right, so I've got it wrapped just like before, and then I'm just going to pop it underneath that pink. Make sure that it's going either way. And then you just want to press it into it all the way down and try and get that point in, going down the centre. Now if you want to keep it at a small length for now, just push it against your workboard, and just be wary of if your clay gets very soft, you might want to just let it rest a little while in between, because I think on some of the sections that I did on the practice cane, I didn't wait long enough for it to settle back down, and I think that's why I got a fair bit of distortion. So I've got that one there. So the next part is this here is sort of 3 triangle sort of shapes. So let's see what colour now. I'm trying to go for highly contrasting colours so that you can see what I'm doing better. So these are just all my oddments of clay that I've got left that I want to try and use. We'll go for this one, sort of like a crimson red, I'd say this one is. Now because this one's already rolled out fairly flat, we can measure out what we're going to need lengthwise. So, right, now because I'm going to need some triangles, I'm going to roll this into a log and then pinch it into a triangle like we did that. So as you can see, this is a bit crumbly, but it's been used fairly recently, so it shouldn't take too long to wake up. Try and make sure you've got any air pockets out. That's not our friends' air pockets when making canes. Now if your clay is really hard, then you can use some liquid clay. Just put a little bit of that in and it'll soften it off. Okay, so I've got it into the log. Now I'm just going to pinch it into that triangle shape and push it down onto the glass mat, and that will give us the flat side that we're looking for. If it cracks a little bit like that, just push it back together. Don't worry. So I'm going to need this, so it's 3 times the length of this. So I'm going to reduce that down so it's the right length, and then I'll come back and show you what to do. Right, so I've got this reduced and I've got it wrapped with the white clay like I've done the other sections, and I've got it to 7.5 inches, which is 3 times the length of the cane. But I'm sorry, I've gone off camera now. You can't see under it. There, you can just about see now. So I'm going to just chop it into thirds. Okay, so we've got our 3 sections here. Now if you take a look at the pattern, yeah, this one, there we go. The side one's a little bit more pointed going downwards and the centre one is going upwards. So if you make one that's a little thinner going up from the middle, and then the other ones are going to go down. So if you just want to make them a little bit thinner, more pointed, and then we're basically doing that. always make sure you've got them lined up at both ends whenever you're putting them together when you're doing a pattern like this. Okay, so I've got that one, and that one go there. Okay, and that one seems to have squished back down. Probably a bit too long now with me reducing it, but never mind, there we go. Just stretch it. Okay, so now this is starting to get more pointed at the bottom here. So now that I've got those together, there's one back in there, I'm just going to start pinching them more up to a point. So there we've got that piece. So the point on this one is going to go here. As you've been pinching it, it can make it stretch out a little bit, but it's not to worry about. And then we're going to push these two side ones up. That little bit of white. Okay, so it's going to be more of a leaf shape. So if you want to just start pushing it down against the table, and you want it sort of a bit like a, I'm trying to think the type of leaf it is. And if you can hear that funny noise that's in the background, that's one of my cats trying to get in again. It's got a thing of scraping against the windows, it drives me nuts. Okay, so that's that section there. Now I'm not going to cut into it just yet because I don't want to get too much end pieces left over the end. I like to leave them on as long as I can. So we've got that piece there. So as you can see now, it looks like that leaf shape there, it's just that section, and it's all got its own white out background, and where they meet up, that's why I've used a thinner thickness of the white, because I knew that they'd be doubling up. And then the last section is just to put this sort of like an extra point on the bottom. So we'll go for, I want something totally different so that you can see the difference between the canes. So as you can see, I've got a lot of muddy colours going on over here, except some gold. Not got any gold ones on yet, so I'm just going to just it off. Very precise measurements. Now the mistake that I made when I was doing the practice one is that I made this centrepiece first, and it turned out quite large. Now the more you reduce it, the smaller it goes, but I don't want it to stand out as much as that, so this is why I'm doing it this way this time round, just to see the difference. Just rolling it out into a log, because the clay that's on the centre of a cane reduces a lot less than what the ones on the outside do. So as you can see here, we've still got quite big centerpieces, you know, compared to this. I mean, the outside pieces have reduced down, but the centre one's not done all that much. So you don't want to make this bit too thick. So this one just needs to go into another triangle again, a fairly pointed one, because that's going to be the centre. Now we don't want to wrap this one with white, because in the centre of it there's no white right in the centre, because we're going to be chopping this section down into two. Okay. So clean cut on the end. And then we're just going to pop that right on the bottom. Okay, so that is our petal shape here. So we'll cut that down the centre once it's rested a while, so that we can use it to make the other side of it. And then the next section will be this teardrop here. So I'm going to leave this to settle a little bit. I'm going to condition some more clay, and we'll come back and do that one. Right, so I'm just going on to the next part of the cane. So we're going to be doing the same sort of shape here, but it's a bit more elongated. So we're going to start at the top and work our way down like we did with this one. So I've got some nice aquamarine green. That's what we're going for anyway, but it's turned out a little bit more green than I expected, but nothing wrong with that. So because this section's a lot smaller than what this one is, I'm going to roll this out so it's a little thinner. You need to make sure that you've got it excuse me, so it's at least as long as your cane that you've already been working on. So there we go. So now I'm just going to turn that into a nice point. So again, we're just making a triangle. A lot of this one is just making triangles and then sort of moulding them to how you want them to go. Okay. Chop off a bit of this excess for now. Okay. Because this one's quite narrow, we can make sure that it's the right sort of width before we wrap it in the white. So if we have a look there, I would say probably in about, that's probably about the right sort of sizing that we're looking for. So, and the other thing is, it's got this sort of little divvy going up where the next section's going to be. So I'm going to wrap this in the white, and then we're going to create that little divvy, if that's what you want to call it, or dent, or whichever you want to call it. Ooh. Right, so over here. So mix that up. Squeeze out any air pockets if you can see them bottling up. So I've got that round there now. Now what you need to do is, if you've got a acrylic block, you can find mine that's gone, oh, it doesn't. So if you've got an acrylic block, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push up in the centre here. Make sure that you've got it in the centre at both ends. Because you want it to go down the middle. And then you can push into the acrylic block. And then you can just pinch it with your fingers. Okay. Once you've got it going in the right direction, if you want to take this is a knitting needle and sort of just push down into that ridge. As you can see, we've got that nice little ridge going in there now, and that's where the next section will go up. And you just need to make sure that it's still the same length as your other cane. Strain it up a little bit. Now this clay's gone very, very soft because I've just been conditioning it before and I'm trying to get the colour that I want. So I'll just trim that off, and I'm going to leave this one a little while just to harden up, because if it's too soft, like I said earlier, it can distort, and you know, you don't want that when you're putting all this effort into making one of these canes. Because they're not a quick cane, but they're definitely worth it in the end. So we've got our pointed top, so I'm going to let this rest before we go on to the next section. Right, so the next part of our section is this broad part here, which goes up into the divvy that we've just made in this one. So I've just rolled out a piece of gold, and I've got it on its thicker setting, and I'm going to want this doubling up because on the pattern it is quite thick, this area here. So I've just folded it so it's doubled up, and I need to make sure that it's the same length as our cane that we've already got. And then if we just sort of measure out by popping this on top like that, and then we can cut down and take any excess off. Okay, so we've got a nice thick piece here, and again we're just going to wrap it up in our thin white clay. Get our cat hair off. All the way around, which we've got, and now we're just going to be pushing this up into here. So we want to do similar to what we did with the acrylic block. Just going to push up in the centre, and then push it round, and then we're going to try and make this more pointed on the opposite side. So you just pinch along. If you've not got an acrylic block, you could use a drinks coaster. That would do the same sort of trick. Or if you've got any acrylic rods. I've not got mine with me at the moment so I can show you, but something that's just got a right angle, and that can be pushed up into the clay, will just work fine. Okay, so I've got my pinched pointed arrow, so to say. Then we've got it. I'm just going to take my knitting needle again, and I'm just going to push down into it a little bit more. Okay. Just chop off this extra bit. Okay, so the next section is doing the exact same thing but with a thinner piece. So I'll just show you, which is this just piece here. Okay, so that's a bit thinner than our normal thick setting. So I'm going to go off screen and do that again, because you don't need to see me getting it all ready, and then I'll come back and show you me putting it back in. Right, so I've got the next two colours going on here. So I'll show you what we're going up against the pattern. So we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're just down to that one there. Doesn't look the most precise triangle, but don't worry about it. When it gets reduced, you'll not be able to tell the difference. Just because it's very, very soft clay at the minute, so I'm going to have to let it stand while I do the other ones. So the next bit that we're going to do is the point part here, which is the next bit down, and it will finish that leaf shape off. So I'm going to do that with the gold, so we've got a bit more gold going on. And looking at which, that's got its own white going around it as well. But because this is fairly bunched up already, I might just put gold on the one side, just so that we don't get too much of it and we get more colour. So again, what I'm just doing is I'm just rolling it into a log, and then I'm going to pinch it into the shape that I want it to go into. Now the log has to be as long as the cane that we're doing, so just measure it along that. Now it's a little bit shorter, but remember when we pinch our clay, it will stretch out. So I'm pinching one side, and then we're going to have to pinch it the other way. So I'm making it into a leaf shape. Now if you've got an extruder with a big shape on it, that'll do this one, that might work depending on what size scale you're doing your cane on, but I'm just using my hands because not everybody's got all these things. Okay, so just about there, I think. Squeeze it back up so it's a little bit thicker. Okay, so that's going to go there. So I need to just put white clay from this side round and up to here, so I'll do that, and then we shall have that bit finished. So remember, this is just on a really thin setting. Okay, just make sure that I've got our point. Go. And just push that in there, make sure that it's lined up. I just want to push it all together so that it's in the right shape. Okay. So as you can see, that's what we've got going there. So if you look at the pattern, it's this bit here, and then that's what we've got. So I'm trying to make it so that it's more into a square on the pattern. This section comes a bit higher up. You want to keep it that way, that's fine, just use more clay than what I've done here. But what I'm wanting to do is I'm filling in these gaps and I'm going to be turning it into a square. So once this is in with the bit that's going to go in next, which is this blue part on the pattern here, it's going to lift it up a little bit further. So I'll just have the side pieces to put in, and then I'll just fill in any gaps with the white, and then I'll be able to reduce it like a square cane. So I'm going to take blue for this next one and put them over to the side. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a tickly cough going on. Right, so the shape that we're wanting to do here is sort of a bit like an arrowhead, but then it's got its own sort of pointed part in it. So that's the sort of shape that we need. And then it needs to be dented inside like we've done the other ones, but it goes further up on the sides. So if we use our acrylic block again, or whatever you've been using, and just push it up against it. Now the next part is it needs to be slightly longer and curved out because it's going to come around the edge of this. Oh, sorry, not good in. So when the piece slots in, the blue part's going to go here. So we need the side part to come up just ever so slightly more than what it already is. So more on the inside now with your fingers. So as you can see, that's looking a little bit more like what this is. Like I said before, once you've got it reduced, any of these little imperfections you'll not be able to see. So I'm going to line this with some white clay. I just need to go and roll out some more, and then I'll come back. Right, so I've got that done. So this is how it's going to go together, and then this will go at the side of it. But we're going to be cutting this piece in half for us to put at the other side, because we're going to make it into a quarter of the square. But what I'm going to do is, before we cut this in half, I'm going to use this as a guide for how much I need to put for the pieces on the side. So if you look at the pattern here, there's some sections that fill it in. So I'm going to fill those in now, pretty much in the same way as what I've done the other ones. You know, like getting the colour and then lining them. So I think I might not put any more blue in. I might put, so let's see, I'm trying to use up all these bits and pieces that I've got left. So it's becoming quite a vibrant cane, this one, a bit more than I was expecting. But never mind, I'm sure it will be pretty when it's done. Let's go with this nice bright orange. I've not got any orange in it yet. I want you to be able to see what I'm using. So I want the orange. Now, if we go for the smallest part here and fill this one in first, we know that we're going to need two of these for when it comes round this side to fit in against the other one. So whatever part we do here, we're going to have to make two of to come onto this side. So I'm going to start with this little part here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold the clay up to just to get a little bit thicker, because this was on the thickest setting. So this is how I store my clay. I keep it in these page protectors. Another tip I picked up from Susan, not my idea, but I just cut them up and I keep them in there, and with any little bits left over from whatever I've been doing, I roll them out on the thickest setting of my pasta machine, and that way it's ready just to be rolled out again. It's partly conditioned already, so I've doubled that up, so I'll zoom out just a little bit. There we go. There we go. So it's probably about there. Yeah, it's a little bit longer, but that don't matter. So I've just folded that over. I'll just flatten it out. As you can see, it's probably a little bit too wide for where it's going to go, so I'll just trim that down. All I'm doing with these patchwork canes is just basically breaking them down into different sections. So this little bit here, sorry, there, it's not very big at all. So, excuse me, trim that a little bit off, and then that will slot perfectly into there where it's going to go. So I'll need 2 of those. So I'll just work out the next one. So I've got those 2 sections, so those will just need wrapping with white, and then the next section up is just a slightly bit wider than that one. So I'm just going to place these in between here so I don't have to keep stopping inside and coming back for it to show you, you know, each piece wrapped with white, but that's going to go there. Now next to it, so the blue actually comes up to around about that point there. So that one will go at that side once it's on. Right, what colour should we go next? Let's go with maybe a little bit more gold. There we go. This is already doubled over, so oh, it's perfect. It's the right height for what we're wanting, so I'm going a little bit wider now. So sorry, I keep going off. I look at the camera and then I look at the bottom and I forget whether if I'm on screen or not, so I do apologise. So we'll see. That's a little bit too wide. So all I've done, I'm just leaving that there, and I'm just basically cutting it in to see whether if it's too wide or not, and it is. So it's just a case of playing around with the size just so that it fits in. That's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect for it. So now we need another one of those for the opposite side. Okay. So then that one will go there, that one goes there, and then it's got one more piece which is a bit thicker than those ones, so that will probably be 3 layered up. So let's see what I've got here. Might go with some more red, maybe. Oh, got that stuck. But no, we'll go with this lovely green. Not got that much green in there. Yeah. So again, it's not too much higher than what I wanted, so I'll just trim it down. Perfect. So do that at 1/2 inch again. I'll just see how much wider it needs to go. Just a little bit wider, I'd say. Oh, it's coming out at me. So I'm going to go wider than this one. I'll go so Oh, that's probably about 3/4 of an inch. And that's too wide, so like I said, it's just a case of playing around just to get the right width that you want, and then that's perfect. That's what I've got. So this one I'm going to layer up 3 times, and then I'm going to wrap them all with the white like we've done before. I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how we're going to put that together. Right, so I've got all those lined with white, and this is the position that they're going to go in. I've just stacked them one on top of the other one, and the smallest one's going to go at the bottom. So that's where they're going to go, and as you can see by the pattern, that goes in line with where we've got on here. So they're going to come across here, same as that one. So this one is, you're going to have a full one of these in the end, but because we're going to reduce it down into 4/4, we're going to chop this one down and we're going to put it at this side here, and then we're just going to fill in the rest to make it into a square. So I'm going to pop that to the side. Just make sure you've got them all lined up where that you want them. Sorry, I've gone off screen again. So let's pop that there. So now this one's been resting for quite a while now, so it should hopefully cut really well, and it shouldn't be too soft to go through. So I'm wanting to go straight down, so I'm wanting to come down the centre of this gold piece here and the centre down there. So if you want to paint yourself a guideline, you can. So I'm just taking my blade and I'm just going to rock it backwards and forwards, and do the same on the other end. Okay. And then we'll meet those two up on the white side. Okay, just pressing a little bit. And then when you've got your blade, you can, like, I can't hover over it like I usually do, because obviously you'd see my head in the camera and you don't want to see that. So I'm just going to slowly go down. Just trying to make sure that I stay within those lines. If you notice that you're just coming out a little bit, just slow down and push it back to where you need it to go. Excuse my cough. Okay, so I've got 2 halves now. So to make this square, I'm going to have one on this side here, which is going to go there, and then the other one is going to go here, like this. So if you want to get a little bit more of the gold, or whatever colour you've used for the centrepiece, we can fill that in here, just to square this corner off. So I'll be able to do that. But all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fill in these parts with white, so it goes into a square like this. So I'll try and find something so I can show you one. Right, so I've got it all packed out now, and I've just put a chunk of white on either side, and then just down in the little gaps I've just put some more white in there. Now as you can see, it's a very vibrant cane, but I like vibrant. So if you look at the pattern that we've got here, it's very similar to what we've been creating. So what we need to do now is just reduce this down. Now this is a very large cane, and you don't want to do it too quickly, because if your clay goes really soft, it can distort and you'll lose your pattern. So I'm going to reduce this down. I have got a tutorial that shows you how to reduce down a square cane. I'm not going to show you it in real time because it'll take quite a while. Because this is a fairly big cane, it's going to take a while to get it down to the size that I want it to. But the idea of the reduction is just to get it down so it's the same picture that we've got here, but just on a smaller scale. And so when I reduce a square cane, I use my acrylic block on my rolling pin, and then I just pinch and squeeze like I do with a round one, but just on a more flat sort of scale. Now I'm going to do a little bit of this and then I'm going to go off camera and do the rest, because like I say, you don't want to see me doing the whole thing. So because I've got the glass mat, I can press down onto it, and when I'm using my rolling pin I just lightly go backwards and forwards, and now just rotate once I've gone either way with it, and then eventually you'll get 4 completely flat sides. Now as I say, if the clay begins to feel really soft, which this is actually become quite soft, you need to let it rest just a little while, just for it to just firm up a little bit again. So as you can see, it's a slow process, but this is just what you need to do. If you don't want to use a rolling pin, you can just use the acrylic block and then you can press down on it that way. If you haven't got an acrylic block, you could use a drinks coaster if you've got some of those. Just something that's flat, just for you to be able to flatten out the sides, and then you just want to press in on your ends just to try and reduce any wastage that you'll get at the end. So I'm going to do this off camera now, and I'll come back when I've got it to the size when I want to cut it down and we can make the full patch. And so I've got the cane all reduced and it's now about 3/4 of an inch either way, and I've reduced it to about 12 inches long. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut it into quarters and then we can pop it all together. Then let's see. So let's go in half and then half again. So we've got our 4 sections, and then we're just going to pop these together and just make sure you line them up. And flip them over. Now if one's just slightly shorter like this one is, just give it a pull. And try and get them as matched up as best you can, because you're going to get some distortion at some point. It's just trying to get it so that it matches up as best you can, because when you reduce it down again you probably won't see those tiny little millimetres difference. You can notice them now just because the image is larger, but obviously the smaller it gets you're not going to be able to see it as well. So this and the other two. And this one's a bit shorter. As you can see, I've managed to reduce it down and kept all the edges and the corners perfectly square. It took me a while. I had to let it rest quite a bit, and then I'd reduce some more, and then I'd let it rest a little bit more. But it's definitely worth it. And then we're just going to pop it together. This one's just slightly shorter. Don't want to pull too hard and then end up breaking your cane. But just pop them together. There we go. And we have our patch created. Now you can reduce this even more and make it into a multi-squared piece like I did on the first one, or you could just leave it as it is. You could use this to make inches, so that'd be a good one to do if you reduced it down to an inch squared. Again, you could put some rhinestones in it and things like that, but you can make some wonderful beads with this. So I hope you've enjoyed that and it's inspired you to have a go and find patterns in things to make canes where you probably wouldn't have expected it to. So if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. And thanks for watching. If you've liked the video, if you could give me a thumbs up, that'd be appreciated. And if you've not subscribed, if you consider subscribing, that'd be appreciated too. So thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.